Well, good afternoon, everybody. This is Phil Gibson with the Unity Group at Keller Williams, and I'm here with Brian. He is with Colorado Insurance, and today we're going to be talking about, Brian and I had a conversation recently, and he was telling me about hail and some of the coverages that have changed up for people. And so I thought this would be a great opportunity to educate people, or have Brian educate people on how the hail coverages have changed and what that looks like for a homeowner. So, Brian, go ahead and introduce yourself, talk a little bit about that, and let's take it away.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, Brian Weiher with Colorado Insurance, work as a broker in a few different states. Colorado is my main, but yeah, hail comes up often. It's not a if, it's when. If you've lived in Colorado for a few years, you've seen it somewhere. And something that I just try to be clear with all of my clients is that wind hail coverage, because it is a separate deductible. Most carriers, the last few years especially, have been changing their deductible amounts. So it could be a flat deductible and replacement cost value. So those are two things really to look out for: replacement cost value and actual cash value on a homeowner's policy. The deductible is one thing, I'll get back to that, but replacement cost value, RCV, is how it'll be listed usually on the policy. You pay whatever your deductible is, and regardless of the dollar amount of the claim, it'll be paid out minus your deductible. Where an ACV, actual cash value, will be your deductible, maybe it's $1,000, but then they have a depreciation schedule on the roof. So if it's a 10-year-old roof, the carrier may only pay 50% of the cost of that roof. So if a roof is, simple numbers, $10,000, you pay your $1,000 deductible, they're still taking off $5,000 of what they're going to pay, because 10,000 minus 50% is 5. So you ended up paying a lot more for that actual roof replacement. So something I always do with all my clients is RCV, replacement cost value. What I've noticed whenever I look at and review home policies, and I always ask the prospective client to have those, because I do these all day, every day for the last almost 10 years. And I can find it and see, and one just happened last week. I think we talked about it at our coffee meeting. One happened last week where he said, oh yeah, here's my premium for the year, and it seemed low. Here's my deductible, which was a flat $1,000. But when I looked at it, he actually had a $5,000 deductible. He also had an ACV roof, so actual cash value, and the depreciation schedule was at 58%. So the carrier would only pay 58% of the whole 100% of that, of a new roof. Basic numbers I threw back at him, he's looking at anywhere from $8,000 to $13,000 out of pocket if and when he has a hail claim, and he didn't even realize that. So something that a lot of people you'll get an email or a letter on renewals, what your renewal is, and if they have any policy changes, because there's a couple carriers, and I don't talk about specific carriers, but there are a few out there that I've seen in the last year now, they've changed their deductible. Because if I can't help a client now, I'll revisit and review every year, because things always change. And I noticed that on a few companies that their deductibles have changed to either a flat $1,000 wind hail up to $2,500, up to $5,000, or a percentage of your dwelling amount.
So you mentioned depreciation, and I've seen this on some policies that we've had. Does that depreciation, is that just a one-time hit, or do you see that where as it goes, down the line, kind of like what they might do with tires? The further down the line, if it's a 70,000 mile warranty, every year that kind of detracts from that warranty based on mileage or age. Do you see the same thing with a roof, or how does that work?
Yes, correct. So each year the policy renews, the depreciation will increase, therefore more out of pocket for the client. So the carrier, I have one carrier in particular, they'll do an ACV on the roof, And some, very rarely, but sometimes it works out better if it's a brand new roof to do that option based on their flat RCV deductible. But they do a 3.3% depreciation. Other carriers, it's anywhere from probably 2.5 to 4 or 5%. So every year that renewal comes up, you have to look at that. This particular client was at, I think, 62% last year. Now they're down to 58. If they go through another season and get through without a hailstorm, they'll probably be closer to 54, 52% on their depreciation.
Okay. Yeah. So we've talked about deductibles. You've talked about RCV and ACV. So you're seeing these deductibles increase. Are you seeing that trend continue, or I know you don't have a crystal ball, but what are you thinking on that?
Yeah. So the last 7 years, when I first started full-time in insurance, most carriers were $1,000 all perils deductible, whatever it was: fire, lightning, wind, hail, water, etc. They've changed that. Colorado and Texas have been kind of going back and forth. Who's number one in terms of the most hail?
Yeah.
While their populations is quite a bit more, I think percentage-wise, Colorado really gets it the way those storms roll in. So I would say 4 years ago is when I started to see the changes, and a lot of carriers have a flat $2,500 deductible, and it's the RCV, replacement cost value.
Okay.
There are a handful of carriers that I have and that I've seen others. They'll start to do a depreciation, or they'll offer a low deductible, with that ACV option. There are also carriers, something to look at if the roof is over 10 years old and getting to 15 years or more. And again, we're talking asphalt shingle roofs. Concrete tile roof, you're usually good for 20, 30, 40 years.
Okay.
The seam steel type roof, and I've had clients that get that replacement. It looks like an asphalt shingle roof, but it's actually steel plated shingles, and it's got an asphalt spray on it, if you will.
Yeah.
So it looks really nice. But again, specifically, I should have said that at the beginning, specifically asphalt shingle roofs. There are regular roofs and impact resistant, that's fine, but that's something that I've seen carriers, every carrier is a little different. Some of mine recently, one in particular, depending on the zip code, they may have a $5,000 flat deductible for their wind hail. Standard is $2,500, pretty much what I've seen with a lot of carriers. Some are going to the 1%, which I think Texas is a 2% of the dwelling. Yeah, so quick example of that, if people don't know, your coverage A dwelling amount, say it's $500,000, 1% of that is $5,000, 2% of that is $10,000. That's your deductible. So coverage A, if you have a percentage, look at that. Sometimes it's a 0.5%, but most carriers are doing a flat 1% or something else.
Now, is that are you seeing in those scenarios, is the premium any different? Where you have, when you have these 1% versus maybe the flat premium, is the premium a little bit less in those scenarios, or are you finding that? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the higher that deductible, the lower the premium. Clients of mine that have a concrete tile roof, stucco siding, or all stone or all brick, they're fine with a $10,000 deductible. They don't look at a percentage or this or that. It's like, hey, can you do $5,000 or $10,000 or $7,500 flat deductible for everything? Our house is really secure. It's got water sensors for inside. It's totally solid outside. Yeah, that's fine. One of my clients, I remember, the home was just over $2 million, and he wanted that higher deductible of about $7,500. This was a couple of years ago, but his premium was around $3,000. And I'm sure there's a lot of people, that have a home that's maybe a value of $500,000, $600,000, $700,000, $800,000. If their premium's above $2,000, they should really talk to their agent first. I'm always available for sure, but talk to your current agent and do a review.
Yeah. How often do you recommend a review every year when you get to that renewal? Do you recommend that, or?
Yeah, so we provide, as a company, and our amazing service team provide a review and send messages out to every single client of ours. Say, hey, your policy's coming up, Phil, September 1st. that email and that notice goes out 30 to 45 days in advance. And that's most of the time when companies will send out that renewal notice, which you get in the mail or via email, depending on how your policy is set up. So we always offer it. A lot of times somebody will say, oh, my policy went up $50 for the year. I'm good. I don't need a review. Let's keep it going. Policies always change. Premiums are always changing. And that can be another topic of discussion.
Yeah.
From that standpoint, but specifically to home that we're talking about today, it does not hurt to talk to your current agent and review and see why it went up, what's going up. We know labor costs are up, lumber is way up, it's coming down, but it's still high, and everything else that we see that we buy on a daily basis. So
yeah,
it'll go up and premiums can increase, and always reviewing the policy, making sure you still have what you need and need the coverage that you have. I have all my clients basically, once they set up a policy, take a picture of every room in your house. So if you should be unfortunate to have a fire and a total loss, you at least can show an adjuster, hey, here's 60 pictures of every room in my house, all the furniture, bookshelves, desks, clothing, everything that you have. It just makes the process a lot easier.
Yeah, that's a really good idea to just from the standpoint of keeping track of everything. I know back in the day, we always had the logs, which that was a pain in the neck. But yeah, taking a picture nowadays seems like that would be much more effective. Excuse me.
Yeah, and just save it to a Dropbox folder. That way, if you lose your computer or laptop, I can log into my Dropbox from my phone or any computer.
Right.
And there's all my documents. So
yeah. We talked about houses and hail real quick. What about vehicles? Have you seen any kind of changes as it pertains to hail and vehicles?
Yeah, had a fairly light season last year, 2020, and hasn't been too bad this year. I haven't received a lot of calls from clients on it, but getting an estimate, one on the roof when you have a hail claim. Had one of my gentlemen down in Elizabeth, his cars got hit with hail, put in that claim. My hail people, hail know that I use, they went up that day and picked up the car, left him a loaner, and I think he's already got him back. And this was less than a week. So that was great. Yeah. But I had my roofer go out, and I had Jacob go out and do an assessment on the roof. The client has a impact shingle roof 4, impact level 4. And he said, I don't see enough damage there to suffice a claim be processed. He took pictures of it, talked to the client about it. And the problem that we're seeing is somebody gets hail, you have storm chasers coming by and knocking on the door. And, put in a claim, we'll do it for you. And this happened to a client of mine in Denver not too long ago. And I talked to her through it as the agent. I want to be there for her and say, let's get a roofer out. And if you don't like that roofer, let's get somebody else. Sometimes personalities don't go together. But the two I had go out said, no, this is fine. The one roofing company was pushing it, and they tried to put in a claim on her behalf. And I scolded them for that. I said, it's not your responsibility. It's the client and me as the agent to do that. Because if she would have and process the claim, the adjuster comes out, they look at the roof and say, there's no damage here. Now she's got a claim against her record. It's a zero payout. The carriers don't like to see that.
Right.
Somebody that's the agent say, oh yeah, just put in a claim. They're being lazy and they're not really taking care of the client.
So I think the moral of this story is if somebody comes knocking on my door for my roof, give Brian a call and get a real roofer out there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because they'll all do it for free. And the ones that I've had, and I've had many over the years, and they kind of come and go. But the ones that I have now, I have a few, and they're on top of it. They're honest, they're fair, because they're not going to try to push a client to put in a claim when they know that it's not going to pass through the carrier or the adjuster. Then they look like a jerk. So
yeah, you got to be smart with that stuff as a homeowner. Especially with you mentioned, with the way the deductibles are now, it's almost you have to really assess. How much damage do you have, and is it worth really filing a claim? I know you have insurance to, file the claim, but I think any more of these claims are for, and maybe I'm wrong about this, Brian, but to me, it seems like they're for catastrophic types of issues. That's kind of the way I look at it. And if you have something like that, then file a claim. But the deductibles to me are at a range where, a lot of stuff you can take care of probably underneath the deductible, and it won't impact your claim rating.
Yeah, absolutely. And insurance is there for a reason, just like health and dental and everything else when you need it. But if it is a small thing, again, if you have a damage, I've got story after story, but a client had a pergola that got damaged. It was about a $1,200 pergola from a windstorm. He said, should I put in a claim? I go, was that all that was damaged? He said, yeah. I go, your deductible is 1,000 or maybe it was 1,500. There's no reason to, you're paying 1,500 and it's only a $1,200 value. So me personally, if I have damage to a house and it's under 2,000 and my deductible is 1,000, I'm going to just try to fix it myself or find something to do it because it doesn't make sense. Same goes with an auto. You mentioned the auto and I didn't finish that statement part though. With hail, yes, you want to get it assessed. Is there enough damage? Sure. If there's little dimples all over the car, go get it done. Pay your $500 comprehensive deductible, which unless you have 1,000, but depending on the car and what you want to do, get the estimate first. If it's close to the deductible, just pay for it out of pocket. It just seems easier. Again, just my personal preference. I would do that. I recommend my client depending on their situation, but they make the final say.
Yeah. Something just popped into my head, Brian. I know a lot of people, in Aurora, particularly in some of the newer sections of Aurora, they have solar panels on their roof. And when hail comes, who takes care of that? I mean, is that part of the claim or does that get processed by the solar company? I guess I'm not totally familiar with how that stuff goes.
Yeah, for solar. So if you lease, you're leasing it. It's not part of the dwelling coverage amount. The solar company owns those solar panels, usually for a 20-year term. They are responsible for any damage to them or replacing.
Okay.
Now, when the roof needs to be replaced, a certified solar specialist needs to come out and replace those. And a storm happened out towards Southlands Mall in 2019, July. And a lot of my clients out this way got hit. A lot of them had solar. And the process just took longer because there's only so many certified people to get those off. But they get them off, they store them, the roofer goes in, does their thing, then, come back on and get those reinstalled. When you own the solar panels, that's on you or me directly if I own them, in terms of the dwelling coverage amount. So dwelling is $500,000. If I have $40,000 of solar panels, I would, as an agent, make sure that I had that conversation with the client at the beginning, add a cushion of $40,000 to the dwelling amount because they do own it, and that's not really seen as part of the dwelling in most cases. So those are the questions you have to ask when that solar is owned. It's on the homeowner. When it's leased, it's on the company that owns the solar during that lease.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Well, Brian, tell us a little bit about Colorado Insurance and how people can get a hold of you to do that review when their renewal comes up.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I've been an agent for a while, full-time, 7 years. I was with a company prior, been with Colorado Insurance for coming up on 4 years. I represent 15 insurance carriers. So I want to shop. I'm not loyal to a carrier. I'm loyal to my clients, and I want to shop the insurance for them. And if somebody tells me, hey, I don't like XYZ company because I had a bad experience at 20 years old, that's fine. Just let me know that on the front end. We don't have to look at them. And everybody's got their ups and downs on every carrier. So
sure, I
shop it through them and then just provide the best option to the client. If they're close, I may give them two options depending on the carrier. But my mobile number, anybody's welcome to call or text me. There is 303-564-5070. And then my office line, just my direct office line, if it's after hours or something, you just want to leave me a message or try to get me there. That number is 303-374-8828. And then my email address is simple. It's Brian, Brian, @ the word buy, B-U-Y, coloradoinsurance.com. So Brian at buycoloradoinsurance.com.
Fantastic. Well, Brian, I really appreciate your time today. Thank you very much. Everybody who's watching this, I'll be including Brian's information at the end of this video, so you can take a snapshot of that and give Brian a call to review your policies as they come up for renewal. And we will take that opportunity. This has been a video presentation for Unity Thread as part of the Unity Group at Keller Williams. My name is Phil Gibson, and thanks for watching. Brian, thanks again. And
Thank
everybody
you.
have a great day.